I'm talking about former South African international Bafana great Benni McCarthy. Well, today he was named as the new head coach of Kenya's Harambee Stars. The 47-year-old who signed a deal with the Kenya Football Federation on Monday faces an immediate challenge, which is preparing the team for 2 crucial World Cup qualifiers in just 3 weeks. McCarthy will be assisted by ex-Richards Bay coach Vasili Manousakis and former Orlando Pirates goalkeeper Moeneeb Josephs. Kenya, who are currently 4th in Group F of the World Cup qualifiers with 5 points from 4 games, will face Gambia away and host Gabon later this month, with the exact dates still to be confirmed. But Kenya have also been fixing their facilities at home, which means they will be hosting one of those matches at home at the Nyayo Stadium in Nairobi. Well, McCarthy, a UEFA Champions League winner with FC Porto, previously coached Amazulu and Cape Town City, and he becomes just one of the select crop of South Africans to lead a foreign national team following stints with Botswana, Namibia and Lesotho. But let's take a quick listen to former South African international Benni McCarthy when he was speaking today at his unveiling in Nairobi.
It's hard when you come into a team where the competition has been fierce and you didn't qualify for AFCON. You know, so I think in the back of the player's mind, it's a big missed opportunity that we didn't qualify for AFCON, upcoming AFCON. But I think these games are coming at a time where you can make the mindset shift, because qualifying for the World Cup is the biggest thing in football. Yeah. To participate, your country playing in the World Cup. So so for me, I'm ambitious, and I think we want to work towards a strong Kenya team, that we have a good start against Gambia and a good start against Gabon, to give us a fighting chance, a slim chance of maybe becoming one or two teams that you can have qualifications to the World Cup, because imagine how special that will be.
African international Benni McCarthy, the new coach of the Harambee Stars of Kenya, was joining us now all the way from Johannesburg, South Africa. He's a good friend of mine, African football journalist. We talk about none other than the one and only Lawrence Kola. Thank you for joining us tonight, Lawrence. I know it's a bit late right there in Johannesburg, but thank you for taking time to come through on the show tonight. What an appointment. I don't know about you, but like we say in Nigeria, we never saw this one coming. He is the first South African to coach a non-COSAFA team. Now, that is huge, considering the fact everybody thought it was probably Pitso Mosimane who was going to do this, but Benni McCarthy breaking the glass ceiling. What does this mean for South African football?
It definitely comes as a surprise. When we first heard, speculation arising, a lot of people in South Africa, including myself, were like, no, this will never happen. Because you always thought that Benni will probably look to remain in Europe or go to the MLS, maybe even come back to South Africa to coach one of the big clubs here, or even wait for the Bafana job of the Hugo Brewers. What it means for South Africa, I mean, it definitely, expands horizons, because, not many of our local coaches have been going to East Africa, or none of them, in fact, has not gone to East Africa or West Africa and what have you. So obviously, if Benni, does, let's say, I use the word succeed in inverted commas, because it's, how can I say, it's a bit difficult to say what would be success with the Kenyan national team, because they had a very, I think, an all-time low, if you look at the FIFA rankings, in terms of being banned from football at one point. So, I mean, the only way forward is up for Benni McCarthy. So, yes, it's definitely been a surprise, and it definitely changes the status quo in terms of, the direction that our local coaches can go. So if he does succeed, like I said, it will definitely, show other coaches that there is a path less traveled that you can take.
Well, there's been the likes of April Fumo, who coached Lesotho, also coached the Bafana Bafana as well. There's Thabo Senong, who also coached Lesotho as well. But Ephraim Mashaba, Shakes Mashaba, also coached Swaziland. But he, like we said, is the first South African to coach a non-COSAFA team. But let's talk about Benni himself. We know his antecedents as a player, but now it's the coaching part that a lot of people are probably not familiar with. I watched the PSL, especially when he was coach of Amazulu. I thought they were a very, very exciting team to watch. Very forward, positive kind of football. What kind of football can Kenyans expect to see from Benni McCarthy?
Yeah, like you said, he's a naturally attack-minded coach. He served a lot of us humble pie because you take him as this guy who's like a crazy personality. You don't think, he won't be a good coach because he's like this personality. But then he proved us wrong once at Cape Town City. It was his first ever coaching role. He won a trophy there. Things soured because of his fiery personality. He went to Amazulu and he took a team that I think were 15th. They were fighting relegation in that season. And he finished second and then qualified them for the group stages of the CAF Champions League for the first time in history. So I think that, gave him a lot of clout in Africa, having led like an unfancy team like Usutu to the Champions League group stage. And he earned a lot of plaudits from media all across the continent for their style of play, very modern, very possession-based orientated, and just like, bringing flair into the game, because that's what he was about as a player. We all know he worked under coaches like Jose Mourinho. He's now even got more practical managerial experience at the highest level with Manchester United. He's worked with, okay, some people will say it'll be debatable now given what Manchester United looks like, but world-class players in their own right, in world-class environments. So it'll be interesting to see what he's learned from that stint with the Premier League team and how he approaches to a Kenya national team that largely needs rebuilding. I've taken a look at this squad over the past couple of months. They probably have about 4 or 5 really top players that he can, create a foundation and work around. But then it's about, looking for the diaspora around the world and seeing where they can add, more quality. And then obviously working closely with the local league and seeing what young players they can, develop. And potentially with his, network that he has around the world, he can obviously, even help these young promising players, further their career in Europe as well.
Well, let's take a look at Africa on a whole now, Lawrence. There seems to be, do I say, a certain pattern now. Nigeria appointed Eric Shell, former Malian international. Now, Central African Republic have also appointed Rigobert Song, former Cameroonian international. Now, Kenya appointing Benni McCarthy, former South African international. Do you see a pattern? Is this the way forward for African football now, where we are looking at our own players, our own stars, our own legends who have coaching capacity to come and handle national teams?
Yeah, I think I saw Algerian Adel Amrouche also being appointed at Rwanda, and then also Aliou Cisse linked with the Libyan national team job. So I think there definitely is a pattern in terms of, maybe the federations looking at their own coaches and saying, these guys understand African football. They're not going to come here and complain about this and that. And then take us to FIFA and take all our money away. Okay, that's another debate, but you know where I'm going with this.
Yes, I do.
These people they understand the climate of African football. They understand the hardships of the players and their psyche as well, and perhaps can get better out of them and not, undermine the talent of players. For example, we've seen many European coaches come here and they have an expectation and were perhaps exposed to a different level of football. So they come here to Africa and they obviously play this very conservative brand of football because they believe that they don't have the flair and attacking talent, which is a misconception. So I think the African coaches will generally try and get, more out of these players in terms of playing entertaining football, not being scared and understanding the strengths and the weaknesses better than traditionally over the past maybe decade or even more, we'll be getting the European coaches. So yeah, I think it's quite bold moves. We'll see, obviously, if it does pay off. But obviously, we're also seeing a lot more, of these coaches in Africa getting educated finally. Benni has his UEFA Pro license. So I mean, it's not like they're just picking somebody randomly just because he's a legend or whatever. These people have credentials.
I totally agree. Lawrence Scholar, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I will be watching very closely how Benni McCarthy's Nairobi sojourn takes shape. But thank you so much for coming through tonight on Game On.
Thank you for inviting me, guys.
Thank you.